it's like really cool. And she's a community organizer, and there's a term for that that I think is important, because the Maid community is part of the nerd community. And to pull out of the nerd and blurred and, you know, every part of the nerd community as someone her age for something that, you know, typically is run by people who are, you know, kind of up in age. You know, most Maid cafes are run by people in their 30s and 40s, and you have somebody this young who has kind of like brought all of these young voices and young faces into a space where we really don't see a whole lot of us. I think that's really awesome. So if you guys give her a great round of applause. And to our Highlander on the panel, Roger J. Clay, good friend of mine. We have worked together since Blerdcon year 2. He owns and runs ClosetGeekLLC, which, you know, the simple definition of it is like he's got a store that you find in cons and he sells nerd fashion and stuff. But it's more than that. He actually designs a lot of his own fashions. You know, he puts together and curates an amazing, you know, inventory every year of new and upcoming and groundbreaking, you know, everything from hats to bands to tech wear. He's getting into everything. He's a special events promoter. He's doing these amazing things with, you know, again, as a designer and a blurred activist. Like, he really, really is tuned into the issues that are facing, you know, basically the nerd community in general, but especially the blurred community. He's great counsel on a lot of stuff that goes on out there in the world. He's got his finger to the wind. He really knows what's happening. So if you guys could give my man Jay a big round of applause. We are taking him away from money, so this is really money flying everywhere in his booth when to get out of it. Like, okay, we're gonna do this. Now, this is the person who I've met the most recently, and I'm so excited to meet her. This year, we had an opportunity to meet face-to-face at New York Comic-Con. Was anyone at New York Comic-Con? Okay, now, what I know and what I think is really interesting is that New York Comic-Con is a lot more homogenous than even you find in any other New York-based or big city-based convention. And you know, to have a manga artist, an illustrator, and a designer who is active in a space that physically was probably there. I don't know if they had a whole lot for Black women set aside. We had a nice little stage where we shared a panel, but there weren't as many faces like this for our outreach. And for her to have a voice in a space where there isn't much brown at all, you know, creating manga, creating art, telling stories authentically from a Black woman perspective. And I think she's, you know, I think it'd be a misnomer for me to say a rising star. She's already a star, and I hope you guys already know it, and I hope I'm the late one, but give her a round of applause, Gigi. Now, the cool thing is that that is the structure right then and there of this panel, right? The discussion that is going to happen here and here is what I would like to have to be as honest and organic and as constructive and connected as possible. I have some questions that I'm going to put out there that we can kind of chew on and kind of go back and forth on. But I'm going to start on the far end of the dais with Jandora and ask the question that probably, as soon as I introduced you, there was some people in here who were probably wondering, like, how did you get from just being as regular teenager as you may or may not have been up to a certain point and saying, you know what, I want to create a Maid experience, and I want to build this brand and this character identity with this look and this style at an age where, quite frankly, you couldn't have asked me too quickly my last name when I was your age. That's how little I knew who I was when I was your age, and to see you kind of crystallizing yourself at this age is really amazing. How did you get started in this journey you're on?
Well, first of all, I am obsessed with Maid, so that kind of answers most of it. But it started when there was like COVID, and you know, I was just sitting there, I'm like, I have a job, and then I started thinking about Maid cafes because I always loved Maid cafes. I had Maid show up for my 16th birthday. So I have posters and everything, and I love the outfits. And I was just sitting there, I'm like, oh, I would love to just create a Maid cafe. And I just called my mom on the phone. I'm like, can we please make a Maid cafe? And can we please make it for our people? I want to see us in cute dresses and cute outfits. I want to see Black butlers. I just want to see our people in whatever outfit they choose to be in it, you know? And I just started to piece together and asking people, and I had a lot of support, so I couldn't have done all of this without that support and the support of my community. Everyone just kept asking how they could help, and were leading me all different directions to help build up this Maid Cafe.
Now, I do want to know if you felt there was any resistance from the establishment, because as a con runner, I do feel like there are a lot of entrenched interests in different quadrants of the con space. And you might find that in vendors and programming, or in artists. There's kind of like this hierarchy of folks that you kind of see everywhere. And I also noticed that everywhere I was looking, there was kind of like the same 4 or 5 faces I kept getting referred to when it came to doing this or that with Maid cafes, because, oh, this cafe is great because they do it at these 5 other conventions, and it was kind of like this monopoly effect, if you will. Did you see any resistance from that establishment when you were kind of doing this insurgent, pop-up thing that you started?
Well, since I didn't actually start in cons, I started like locally. I started with a cafe that was right in my neighborhood in Brooklyn. So I started from there. I did get a lot of resistance online, unfortunately. When I had my cafe, someone came and they recorded a very cute video of us and they posted on TikTok. And of course, when people see a whole bunch of Black people enjoying themselves, we get tons of hate online. And it went viral. We got like 1 million likes and probably like 3 million views or something like that. It was very good. I love the attention we're getting, even if it was negative attention, all attention. I just take everything, and I was able to have my second cafe, and it sold out because of that beautiful TikTok. And even with all the hate, like I use the hate for profit. Like I took those comments, and I post videos with them. I show people like, look at the hate we're getting, even though I could care less. It did help boost it a lot. So. I did get resistance online, but that doesn't really matter because those are people behind screens, so it's not like they're actually coming up to my cafe saying something, but I just kept pushing because I was doing this not only for me, but for everyone, and I didn't want to give up. I wanted to just keep going because I wanted to show other people that they can also do this cafe too. They can also set up their own Maid cafe or set up whatever they want to set up,
Very nice, very nice. Now, Gigi, talking about entrenched interests, you talk about the manga world being homogenous and there not being any measure of Black voices, and virtually, almost comparatively speaking, no women Black voices being heard in the creation, the writing, and the art of the manga infrastructure. You as a Black woman, now going into this space, incorporating horror and incorporating, some of the styles that, you have within yourself that you become as an artist, did you find that in kind of stepping out that there was this pushback? Was it something that was like out front, or was it kind of subtle? Like, did you find any resistance to your work? Which, by the way, is amazing. If you see it in your work, it's like, you can't imagine anyone not liking it, but, what did you get for that?
I kind of like to get a jump on things before they get started. So when I publicly decided, like, okay, I'm gonna go through with this, I jumped on Instagram and I started making reels, and the first reel that I made was, who's saying that you can't be a motherhood? Like, who's still saying this anymore? Like, and it gained a lot of support actually, and while I haven't had anybody like face to face or even really online tell me that I couldn't be a manga artist, I just wanted to put that out there just so that people didn't try me. And I also am not on TikTok like that. I know people get real bold on TikTok, so I just, keep it kind of away from TikTok. But yeah, I made that reel, and there was one person who said something slick. It wasn't necessarily about me becoming a manga artist, but it was an illustration that I did where I had the Fullmetal Alchemist characters. The cast was black, and they said something really not nice. I'm gonna say, just to keep it pretty PG, they were just like, oh hey, it's N-word alchemist. And I was like, that's a great observation, because you must be little D alchemist. So, I just the quick clap back, and, they didn't comment again. And a little embarrassment sometimes goes a long way to get people to keep their mouth shut. So that's been my experience. It's all of that stuff is for the birds.
Well, I touched on it just a minute ago, but you're also a minority voice in horror. Because historically, black people are not supposed to be in horror. We're not supposed to even survive horror movies. I think we can count on one hand how many black people have survived to the end of a horror movie, even to this day. And now you have black women who are coming up and doing creative writing and art and really scaring the bejesus out of a lot of folks in a beautiful way. So do you find that there is a more entrenched infrastructure around manga, or did you have more doors to have to kick down in the horror genre as a black woman?
That's a good question, actually.
Thank you.
Oh man, well, that's hard. I don't know if there's like one that's been more difficult than the other. When the idea of like you can't become a mangaka comes up, it has nothing to do with the genre. It's just the action of creating manga in itself. But that's probably been the more difficult, because I've seen a lot. Obviously, right? We have Jordan Peele out and about, so not only is horror kind of like making a comeback into like the collective psyche, but black horror, especially because of him, like making such a public declaration of like, I'm going to do horror stuff. But there's also there's a lot of like black women and black women of color who are in the horror space, who have like podcasts. Our friend Zero Gravity is one of them. There's also, there are a few other, I can't think of the podcasts off the top of my head right now, but I do have them on the queue. But there are a few POC and like specifically black women-led horror podcasts that are around. So I don't think there's so much of a hurdle there. Probably more so with the manga stuff.
Interesting. Now, Jay, center of the group here, you are breaking into, or have broken into, a retail and fashion space. And one of the things that I've learned about you is that, okay, I'm going to say this, and I think half the room's going to get this, and half the room's not. So if you don't get it, we'll explain. You're a real brother. We kind of sometimes forget that as nerds and weebs and stuff, we're all dressed in our cosplay and stuff, that we all are coming from, even if it's just our version of the black experience. And this guy is actually like a ex-member of the Dragon House. So if you catch him not seeing anyone looking at him, he can like really dance. And it's kind of scary because he's pretty stoic, like just sitting there, like he could do the whole, like, I was like, what in the hell are you doing? He's like, oh, man, no, I was in the Dragon House. And so what I'm getting at is that, you're coming into a space where the fashion and, the stories and the narrative is already set. The nerd space has got its fandom, right? It's not like general fashion where it's all interpretive and people might digest it and might not. But now you're coming in and you are servicing that community but you're also putting this spin on your inventory and your creation and your designs that is going to specifically appeal to the urban community, right? So how do you see what you're doing? One, hurdles that and barriers that you have to overcome, and two, I think even more interestingly, are you seeing other non-Black vendors copying, if you will, your approach and putting more urban gear in their lineups and more streetwear in their lineups, whereas before it was just like t-shirts, ball caps, and all that sort of thing?
Okay, just make sure. So yeah, as of late, there's been a lot more apparel vendors popping up, I guess you want to call them. Most of them used to be all t-shirt vendors, but they have been watching other Black vendors and people in the actual POC nerd space and their creations, and they've been following their trend. And in most cases, what ends up happening is you'll see a lot of smaller vendors, especially the POCs, because we don't always come out with a lot of money backing us. So we'll be that small vendor that you might overlook, and we won't look as approachable as the larger vendor. Those ones will have big money backing them, and they'll be copying a lot of our style. So you'll catch that happening all over in the nerd space. And the only thing that we can do actually to combat that is to keep promoting each other. So in most cases, I actually talk to any of the other POC cosplayers, any of the POC vendors, and I promote as much as I can anytime I see someone in our same realm. I don't want them to be brushed under the rug. So when it comes down to clothing, I know almost like every vendor in there that sells clothing that's of our brand and ones that have copied of our brand. And I will always put them first.
I hear you. Now, Jandora, there's something interesting that I found this week. If you don't know, we did a Maid party this past Friday. Did anybody get an opportunity to attend the Maid party? There's a couple people here, 1, 2, right. It was really interesting because I, as a con goer, have never done an actual, or participated in an actual Maid cafe. So technically, this was my first Maid experience, and it was amazing, right? And I think that Jandora is onto something with this, because we go into this venue that was perfectly built for what we were doing as a co-promotion, where you had gaming space, you had a karaoke room, you had the 6-foot-tall Jenga with real blocks, like it could hurt you if it fell type of thing. It was like giant Uno cards the size of my laptop. So it was like a perfect Maid gaming and interactive space. And I'm going through as the stoic con runner, just kind of checking on everybody, whatever. And I come into the room, and I mean, she looks small, right? Well, I mean, she is small, but she's belting out, like hollering at the top of her lungs and singing in the karaoke room. And she kind of does the whole, like, I'm gonna pass this wave to Jerry Curl, and I kind of passed it right back. And I was like, no, I'm not doing it. But 6 minutes later, I'm on the mic, singing Dan Hartman, I Can Dream About You, and my throat still hurts from that, but I was having a ball, and I was sitting there like, some of your maids were in the room, and they were kind of like singing, and they knew like where to come in with the claps and all this kind of stuff, and like at that moment, I was like, I get it, right? And so my question to you is that, do you find that because you're having this unique approach to the Maid experience, not just in the venue that we were doing, but in your pop-ups, are you bringing into this Maid world, not just, maids who are new, but are you bringing in people who have never done the Maid experience coming into your events where they haven't done them at cons?
Oh yeah, definitely. A lot of people are like, oh, I've never been to a Maid cafe, and they never got to experience one because, a lot of us just see it on anime, or we just see like those people that are touring Japan and you see the Maid cafes. So a lot of people never got to experience it. But then they do get to experience it, and it's like the best thing ever, and they love it because it's just you like enter another world, another fantasy world, and we purposely make it like that, where we decorate it, and it looks like you're entering another world, and you're just playing so much games, and you're having so much fun that you're not even realizing like what's going on. And I feel like that's the purpose of a Maid Cafe, to kind of create like a safe space for people. So when like Hilton saw me like doing my most iconic Grammy award-winning performance I just wanted to get people going and getting excited about doing karaoke, even though a lot of people who like never did karaoke before, but they saw like how hard and they just saw how inspiring and of course iconic my performance was, that they just had to do it themselves, which is something that I love about the Maid Cafe, is that we like get people out of their box in a sense, in a most like comforting way of doing it. So like without, pushing them too much, but just making it a comfy space that they feel like they can be able to do anything, and they can feel like they can sing as good as me. So yeah, it's just like a lot of fun doing that party, and I really want to do more and like get people out of their box and just see them like enjoy themselves at the best way possible.
So, but I want to stick with this, outside of the box, reach. Because one of the things that I feel is my mission as a steward of the Black nerd community, a community that existed before I came along and before Blerdcon came along, but is now finding more of its footing, everywhere we go, is that there is right now, a finite amount of people who are in the nerd space, going to cons, participating in their nerddom outside of their home, right? And I don't know that we have done everything we can as a con running community and as, writers and everything like that, which does give us mission to bring in those people who have not either been invited or for whatever reason felt like this was not a space for them. So when we talk about outside of the box, Gigi and Jay, one, you're talking about fashion. Like, here in this space, somebody comes up and buys a Dragon Ball themed shirt. You know that they're a Dragon Ball fan and they've been looking for that shirt and that's my character, and boom, there's like a whole backstory behind it, right? But you're probably getting more and more people, if not in this particular space, maybe online or in less nerd specific spaces you might set up, who are also kind of coming into the anime theme and the nerd theme through you, even though that might not be where they're at, and you become like an introduction to the nerd community because of where you are as an ambassador. And Gigi, I'm imagining that, because of who you are and how you do what you do, you're probably appealing to a new market who maybe have never read a manga or has never done, a horror story or followed like a manga artist in general, let alone a Black woman. So, and I'll put this to both of you, do you find yourself on this cutting edge, either deliberately or by default, to people who come to your table or come to your booth, like, well, I've never read a manga before, but I just saw you here and I wanted to come up and have a conversation. And what do you feel is your responsibility for that? And what do you think could be the next steps?
You go first.
Yeah, I think that humbly, I think I may be on the cutting edge just because I haven't seen any other Black female manga artists, and especially not doing horror. Maybe some dabbling or getting there, but definitely not doing what I'm doing. So I do feel that that is the case for me, and because of that, I do have like the Black community come out and support like the work that I'm doing. There was a guy that came over the other day, and he came over and he had looked through the stuff, and he was like hesitant and wanted to come over, but like was like, ooh, this is looking kind of scary. And I was like, come through, you can come through and take a look, like what's going on, how are you? And he was like, listen, I'm gonna be honest with you, I don't like nothing scary, I don't like horror. But I like this work. I was like, why didn't you like horror? And he was like, well, because it's just too real. It's just too real. When I saw The Ring, you got the videotapes. It's a horror movie about people dying in 7 days because they watched a horror movie. And I'm watching a horror movie. As I'm watching a horror movie, it's like, it's too much. It's too much. There's too many. It's an inception of just like all things go wrong. I miss a call, I die. I watch a movie, it's too much. It was like Final Destination 2, I can't get on the highway no more. If I see a log truck, I'm out of there. It's like, I get it. But we discussed like how horror, sometimes it can be a little too much, but in other ways it can be really cathartic. But had I not been there and he had not seen my stuff and wasn't attracted to my work, he might have not thought about it in that way. And he wouldn't have bought, I I think he bought a sticker. He wouldn't buy a sticker either. So yeah, I do think that my stuff does tend to open up people to like different perspectives, and not just Black people. I have a ton of other people who love my stuff. It's weird to me, but like they love it, especially like my Black women versus the world friends. They're just like, oh, I love it. This is so good. And I'm just like, thank you. So I do feel like because of that like humbling cutting edge point, it does create a lot of attraction from different people.
Jay?
I don't know, I can't really say I feel like I'm cutting edge. I just like to put spins on anything that I see that I like. If it came down to fashion, I like things that are subtle. I don't want to come outside with, Goku and Dragon Ramp all around the shirt. That was me back in the day. That was those old school sublimated shirts from way back in the day. We remember them. But it never really sat with me. I'm the type of person that I want a polo or like a light varsity jacket with a little subtlety in the back, and you don't know what it is unless you know. Yeah. So like right now I'm wearing.
Let's see the drip.
I knew it was coming. Get your cameras out. Original creation.
I like subtlety. It's chill, it's chibi art, it's cute, but at the same time, like, you know what it is. If you're walking down the street and someone really is an anime fan, they're gonna point you out, they're gonna know what it is, and you're gonna geek out together. And I kinda like that. I like that kind of vibe,
Where's your booth?
108. We're like right in front. Right in front of the left-hand side, you walk by, you're gonna hear music jamming, that's us. Like, we're gigging all day long. Beyond that, I just love being able to vibe with everybody. Like, you guys don't realize it, but I've been in this game for like 17 years. And it brings a tear to my eye to see this many of us in a room. Because I was like when I first started, I was at the con. We were the Black guys, we were thieves. We weren't even thieves. We could just be walking. Everybody thought we were stealing, no matter what. Like, pointed out, called out, even as a vendor, I was a thief. So it hurts, but I love seeing that we can be here now. I love being able to vibe with you. Everybody walks in my booth, they hear, rap music playing. Somebody used to tell me, hey, rap doesn't belong in anime cons. I'm like, yo, you stupid. Have you not listened to most of the soundtracks? Convention, you told me K-pop belongs in anime cons, but rap doesn't, and K-pop steals from anime. Steals from rap. When you think about it, like it's literally Korean rap. So you're gonna tell me we don't belong in it, but Shamrock Shampoo, which has rap in it, you're gonna talk about Afro Samurai, like that's not rap? Like everything derives from it. Like we started a culture and it kind of bleeds over. Like everybody comes into what we do. So when people come into my booth and they feel that vibe, they're like, yo, I feel like I'm at home. I love that. Like if you black, you white, you Hispanic, I don't care what you are, as long as you come into my booth and you show respect, I love that. So when everybody comes to the booth, even if you've never seen an anime, somebody can ask me about something, I will sit there and I'll geek out and I'll talk to you about it. I'll tell you an anime that sounds like something you may have watched. You may have watched like a regular TV show, and I will find an anime that just basically goes with that. And I'll be like, yo, follow this train. These are the ones you're gonna wanna watch. Hit me up. You can hit me on IG and I'll tell you more. And that's just how I feel about it. So when it comes down to like being in this industry, fashion, things like that, I wanna be able to just vibe with everybody I'm around. Like I'm not really wanting to be a big vendor. I just wanna be the vendor that everybody remembers.
Right into my point that I was going to come up with next was a question somebody asked me about Blerdcon. And usually when someone asks me a question about Blerdcon, I think they're talking about blurs in general, because I try to think about things directly to community first, and then the con is a reflection of that. And they asked me, if you had to sum up Blerdcon in a sentence, like 7 years of promotion and work, like one sentence, I said, and pardon me in TV land for this, but it just blurted out. I was like, everybody loves black shit. And I couldn't add to it. I didn't clarify, and he just kind of paused, and he was like, okay, that's a quote. And he wrote it down. And I think that this is what I'm hearing from the panel is that, you know, we are in various ways expressing Black voices and Black stories, but we're not adding to the lexicon of the fandom, right? This is not something that anyone who is consuming your manga as a reader, or your art as an artist, or your fashion, or experiencing your Maid Cafe event, thinking I've had like just a Black experience, and somehow this exists in a bubble and doesn't connect or influence or power my interest in other things. Everyone comes in and there's this familiarity, like, because we all understand connection, we all understand community, we all understand, you know, acceptance. And if you go into a Black nerd space, we put special emphasis on that because we are double rejected. And as Black nerds, I think that's emblematic of our experience. If you ask, well, what's the difference between a Black nerd and a regular nerd? Well, all nerds had to give up their cool card, right? You know, you decided at some point, like, I'm either gonna be a nerd or I'm going to prom. These are not interchangeable. They are two separate lanes. You know, this is the service road and the highway. You gotta make your choice. And we all were like, you know what? I like what I do. I am who I am. I'll give up my prom card, my cool card. Boom. But it's only the Black nerds that were often asked to give up their cool card and their Black card, because so much of what we have been conditioned to see as Blackness, you know, over the decades, you know, and I think, you know, our parents are probably more products of the Blaxploitation era of movies and TV shows where, you know, all Black people had to walk with a mop, or had to be super smooth, or over-sexualized, or ready to fight two dudes, or, you know, kung fu that we don't really have, you know, like all Black people don't know kung fu, but somebody's gonna believe that, you know, and then here we go doing something that is considered to be weird. But even within our own community, Black people were not allowed to be weird. We weren't allowed to be individuals. And by default, if you're not doing what everyone accepts as being Black, then it has to be white. So you watching anime is white shit. You listening to pop music is white shit. You watching or reading comic books is white shit. And, you know, we're having these two battles because, you know, we're too brown to hang too deep with our white friends in their community. We're not going all the way there. But then we got to turn around and come to the Black community and we got to fight a whole other fight, right? And it's getting better. I think this next generation coming up is seeing less of those lines as there's more mainstreaming of nerd culture, but those lines are still there. And it kind of blends into everything as to what is our identity as Black people? What are we allowed to do? How are we allowed to express ourselves without stepping outside of our own skin, right? And my philosophy is that your skin, your Black skin, is your experience. Even to the point where you even deny your Blackness. And I knew a Black guy who said, I don't even put Black on my driver's license because I just want to be me. I was like, well, that's your skin. And you have the right to do with it whatever you want to. Now, the cops aren't going to necessarily go, oh, don't stop beating him. It says other here. Sorry. I thought you were Black, that your driver's license clearly says, you know. So that's not going to change how the world sees you or how you get treated, but how we see ourselves and our freedom to see ourselves as individuals is more important. And in all of these genres and all of these spaces, you're seeing this expression taking hold in a world where people who, like I said, have never, you know, we have an aversion to horror, specifically, right? We don't do horror, right? Wait, listen, how many of y'all can't go to your parents' house and say Candyman 5 times an hour? How quick will you be out on the curb? By the time you get to the 4th Candyman, you already out the door, right? That's our relationship to horror, right? Fashion, like I was just at a tech conference in Austin, Texas, and I was telling Jay this. This is what I wore. This is what I wore to a tech conference. Suits and church outfits everywhere. Everybody looked like Tyler Perry and Steve Harvey. I'm dressed like this because this is who I am and what I do. You have no reason to talk to me if you're not going to talk about nerd stuff, right? I'm not a venture capitalist. I'm not starting a startup. I'm not buying real estate or any of that stuff. If you come up to me because you like what you see here, we have something to talk about, right? And so expressing ourselves in these spaces that up until now have not been us is really exciting to me because I'm seeing this expansion of the nerd community, not just the Black nerd community. I see you guys bringing in people of all ages, races, regions, and creating an experience that even non-Black people become better fans and better community members because they are reading your stories, and because they've been in your booth, and because they sung at the top of their lungs trying to keep up with Whitney Houston. That's why I get so excited. But I want to stop here because I know we've got a short amount of time, and listen, I've done dozens of these types of panels, and I know we got a lot to say, so I'm going to just shut up and take some questions from the audience, because I know we all have got our own voices, and I want to hear what you guys have to say or any questions you might have for the panel. There's a microphone over here to your right, my left. You just run up here because they are recording it, and say your piece.
Don't be shy.
Look, say, oh, don't try me. Try Jesus. I'm coming to the mic. We getting a cut off. We getting cut off. Don't worry, we'll get both of you. How are we doing, sir?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Oh, I'm fine now.
I wanted to ask the lady here. I forgot your name.
Gigi?
Gigi.
Yes.
Hi.
What inspired you to do to be a manga artist exactly? I don't think you even mentioned that.
Yeah, what was your first, you've probably been an artist your whole life, right, in one way or
I
another.
thought you into drawing.
What made you just one day, you're like, you know what, I'm going from SpongeBob
Make some squares on paper.
So when I was younger, I've always drawn, and I actually wanted to work for Disney and be an animator, because I was like addicted to animation and addicted to drawing. And then I got older and realized animation is not for me. But I had been reading manga, and actually, and this is a really funny story, but when I was 7 years old, the first manga that I read was actually a horror manga. It's from Hideshi Hino. Y'all, get on your phones now, search up Hideshi Hino, Panorama of Hell, and look at that cover. And 7-year-old me was reading that.
That sounds like
as a Black child, reading that in the house. And so that was, y'all know that cover is wild. So that experience cemented in my head that this is it really affected me. And then as I got older, I started getting more into manga. And I think a lot of confusion that people have with me getting into manga as opposed to American comics was, well, you're American, why didn't you get into that? I actually didn't have a pipeline to American comics. Usually it's kind of like a male thing that's bonded between a nephew and an uncle, or a son and a father. I didn't have any of that. None of my family really read comics, so I started reading manga on my own and just started from there, just by myself. And I initially didn't think that I could do manga because of those same ideas of you can't do manga unless you're in Japan. And a lot of that talk was negative self-talk from myself, and that was more projection than a group of people telling me, no, you can't do this, you can't do this. So after I want to say 2020, I decided I'm going to take the lead, because the technology is different. You can get information better. I can learn how to do this on my own, and I'm just going to go out and do it. So that's how I started on my journey with this. I'm not sure if that answered your question. I hope it did.
Yes, it did. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you. Step right up, sir. Step right up.
First and foremost, thank you for having this panel. This is so important. And thank you for everybody else that did attend this. This is very powerful. And I'm saying that as someone who, I'm not an artist, but as an uncle. I brought my nephew to, Comic-Con, and the experience there, that was the first experience. And there was a lot of confusion, I'm just trying to show him a breath, you could breathe comfortably in your own skin. Because it's important as an artist, the form of expression, the whole point of a free space is just that, to be free. And when I say that, it shouldn't be, oh, you expressing yourself like this. Why? Why can't you express it with this sort of aspect to it and that? Why should expression be something that's interrupted? So as you guys sit up here, you navigate and you're planting the seeds and you're sharing how you navigate through adversity, how you navigate through self-expression, and that is so important, especially now because you know, everybody here, and even in this match, it's escapism. You know, you come to this to escape, not to be held down by oppressive thoughts and things like that. And you know, it's very disheartening. And I was listening to the sister as she was saying, you know, how when she had her Maid shop and met with all these, you know, devices and things that tried to take it, she said, no, that's my money right there. So, you know, that's what you do. You turn that into money, you turn it into, and that's something that we've always done as a culture, as a community. And the whole thing is that it's so important because these seeds are being planted for future generations and now, and as people will look back, they'll say, you know what, this is a starting point that yes, we are Black creators, yes, we are Black intellectuals, and yes, we're not that label that you see. Mm-hmm. You know, so when you start with that in silence, that means your inner world's showing your outer. So how do you see yourself and how you're trying to project it? You know, this is my expression, this is how I show myself. And the reason why, the question, let me get a question. You guys you guys understand how important this is that you're doing? Do you understand? Because it's like when I came here, I was like, you know, it's how.
Listen, brother, I will tell you, you know, one of the things that when you're putting something together, you're creating something, as everybody on the stage is doing, you get so caught up in, you know, that whole nose to the grindstone thing. Because, you know, at the end of the day, you know, none of this really matters if what we do isn't dope, right? Because I mean, listen, we love to support one another, we love to support Black community and all that stuff, but, you know, we not spending our time, you know, and our money on stuff that's mid, you know how it is. We are our harshest critics, so that we often don't understand or are not in constant contact with how important it is being received sometimes because we're focused so much on creating it. I wanted to ask you a question. Is your nephew here in the room?
Yes, he is.
Can you show his hand? He's right there.
Actually,
Okay, so, yes, it's your question. I cut you off.
No, that was just, you know, you guys understand how important what it is that you're doing because it's like, this is very important because it's showing that we do think, we do care, we do draw, we feel all this.
I will just say, because I want to get to this next question, one of the things that we don't know is how important it is until we fill a room like this. You know, this just sits on the schedule just like any number of 2 or 3 dozen other panels, and there's probably a half a dozen others that are focused on Blerd culture and Black people, even if it's implied and not written out. But you know who really does need to know that it's important? Anime NYC. Because they're the ones who decide, you know, what, you know, gets put on the floor and gets accepted as artists and vendors, who gets, you know, slots for programming like this. And when you guys fill a room like this, and some of you are probably going to receive an email survey at some point, and you mention that, then they are realizing that they're doing a better job serving the entire community by letting us have representative space. And that goes for everything. This is what it's all about when it comes down to supporting Black business. So you talk about supporting Black business, you think about dollars, but this is actually supporting Black business, right? She's gonna submit another application for this con next year. And if, you know, there's a sense that she is providing something valuable, then she's going to get accepted. Same thing for Jay, and the same thing for Jandora for her next adventure. So supporting doesn't always mean money, but it's also what you do with your voice and with your presence and your time and your visibility. So just knowing that you're here and in this room is supporting Black business and Black voices. So we do see it, and we do see it through you. So we thank you for that, sir.
You guys flourishing, vice versa.
Absolutely.
You know, thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate you. Do you have any,
And yes, we do. We got, what, 5 more minutes or so? Yeah, okay. We're over at 1, right?
Yeah, ish.
Ish, because we're in the ish zone, so you know, I'm watching you and listening to you. So we can get one more question, and then I think we'll probably wrap up. Go ahead.
Actually, I'll just make this quick. I don't really have a question, but I just want to give you all my flowers, just because with every one of the stories that you told, I saw myself. So this is just thank you for what you're doing, and thank you for representation, because the more that we have people like you in these places, the more responsible that generations, future generations can see themselves in those same places as well. So thank you.
Thank you, sir. Really appreciate it. So guys, we are not going to really have a whole lot of time to do the come to the front thing type thing, but we are, Jandora and Blerdcon are in the same booth. We are in booth 2245. You know where that chocolate fudge stand is? We are diagonal from that. We're one row over from the cars, heading toward the back wall. So if you guys want to get some more information, or if you want to take some pictures, you just want to ask any questions, please come over, and we'll have some Blerdcon flyers, and there's some Jandora merch, and Jay has already told you what booth is in. What booth are you in, Jay?
108.
He's in 108. Where are you, Gigi?
I'm in E12 in the Artist Alley.
E12 in the Artist Alley. She's on our side. You got a little bit of time. It's only 1 o'clock. Everything closes at 4. Make these your next 3 destinations, and we will love to see you guys face to face. Thank you guys so much for coming out. So happy to see you all. Everyone's so beautiful. Amazing work. We appreciate you.
And then